What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. On this episode, we're going to continue working on the 1UZ swap. Right now, I'm currently starting to extend some of the wires on the wiring harness. Terry's been working on trying to do the heat shield for the exhaust on the driver's side. I think he's got a good plan figured out for that. But let me flip the camera around and show you what we've started doing and what direction we think we're going to go. So I've been extending these 3 wires that were short on coming out of this section of the wiring harness and going down. So now they loop around. This one's still short because the extension is up here. It's one of these ground wires, but I still need to solder right here. But Terry's also disconnected the VVT solenoid connector and was able to shift the entire wiring harness over a pretty fair amount. And we may be able to get enough out of it by just doing that and extending these 3 wires. So what I'd like to do is solder these 3 wires up, see how much movement we've gained out of that. He also broke loose the ground and rotated it up so that we can get those wires over a little bit further. So we'll see how far we can get this pulled over. If we can get it pulled over a pretty fair amount, this may be the only 3 wires that we cut, because I really don't want to cut these, but I will if I have to. It introduces a lot of variables for future problems, and I'd like to avoid that. But if we have to, we have to. So I'll let you know what we come up with. All right, everybody. So we've run the reverse light. Terry got a 2-pin connector from just one of the local auto parts stores. I think it was either like O'Reilly's or Advanced or some shit like that. But just a regular 2-pin connector. Soldered it to the reverse light switch, and then we ran some red and black wire up. We're using the original clips that were in the transmission, and then we're using the factory clip on the back of the wiring harness. We've been able to get about 4 inches, maybe 3 or 4 inches out of this harness. So I think we're gonna run with it how it is. And we're gonna add some ring terminals to here so that we can hook them up to ground. And then we're basically bolt the headers on here, and we're ready to set it down into the car. Now Terry's probably gonna mess with the wiring on the putting heat shrink on all the wires before we put it in the car, and we need to fix the leaking fuel injector on the front. Once we do that, I think everything's done and we're ready to put it in the car. All right, guys, so Terry stayed up a little late last night wrapping this harness. He's got a good bit of it done, but he's trying to keep it clean, so that's why it's in the trash bags. But wrapped it with the fabric tape like the factory. That shit looks really freaking nice. Wrapped all the ends on every one of the connectors. Man, this thing's turning out nice. Oh wow, you did get a lot of it done.
This is the difficult side.
Oh yeah. Oh, I like how clean that looks. Going into that box, you got all that stuff looking really nice. Ah,
and
shit.
then I ran out of tape.
Oh, you ran out of tape?
Inside of the box.
Okay.
Running it back.
Well, we'll have those other 2
and
rolls.
I stopped it here and stopped it there, so that'll just...
Yeah, we'll have those other 2 rolls today. Yeah, that looks freaking awesome, dude. Hell yeah. All right, guys, so I've just been leaving Terry to his own devices today. He's been working on doing the heat shield, and he's made a really nice heat shield for this thing. That thing is turning out amazing. So, yeah. He's got a little bit more work to do to it, but man, that thing is nice, and it's going to serve a very good function. So, yeah. Once he gets done making that heat shield, I think, have you finished wrapping the harness or no? The harness still has a little bit left to wrap. Okay.
During nighttime.
So he's got a little bit more of the harness to wrap, but he was doing it last night at night, which makes sense because we can do all this work out here during the day. So how much more do you have left to wrap?
I think just the whole back end to the computer.
Okay.
All the fuel injectors and the rails on both sides all done.
And all the way going up to the ECU is done as well? No, that's not
just
done.
the back part of the motor to the ECU is what we
Okay. Okay. All right. Well,
looks really good though. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, everything's turning out really nice. So if we keep on this pace, there is a possibility that we could put the motor in here tomorrow, but I'm not going to say that we will. He may still want to paint some other stuff in here, but we'll see how it turns out. All right, guys, putting the motor back together, getting ready to get it back into the car, putting both heads on it. This side, we got to block off the oil port when we pick the dipstick tube up to put the header on. But everything else is done. I'm working on running the wires for the rear O2 sensor on the driver's side, and then we'll get it in the car. So out here, Terry's been working on, he painted the steering rack, cleaned it up. And we've got all the heat shields. He's got all the heat shields made, and all the modifications that are necessary for the car to be done are done. So we're hoping to get the motor in here tonight. All right, Terry's putting the finishing touches on his heat shield that he made. That's some heat coating that's getting put on there right now. Form fit. You just got to drill the holes and then mount it in the car. And then the only other things that we have left is we got to finish doing the felt wrap on the ECU wiring. And then the motor's ready to go in. All right, so there's the heat shield reinstalled on the car. That thing looks freaking mint. So now we just need to put the finished wrap on the wiring harness up there and then put it on the motor, and we're ready to put it in the car. All right, so Terry has been detailing the ever-living crap out of the engine compartment. Starting to look really, really nice. And we're almost to the point where we're ready to put the engine back in. So, yeah, still doing little detail cleaning, but we're waiting on a heat shield to be delivered. And then when the heat shield gets here, we'll mock it up and get it to where it doesn't interfere with the steering shaft right there. And then we'll be able to drop it in. But we got to make sure that heat shield fits first. All right, guys, here is the harness all wrapped up, looking pretty. Got everything all wrapped up, detailed, looking nice. These are the wires for the rear driver side O2 sensors, so that's why they're sitting on top of the motor. But got everything wrapped in factory felt wrapping all the way up to the ECU. And got the headers back on there. Waiting on a heat shield for this side right now. Got this one back on with the heat shield. And this hose goes up this way, but we'll deal with that in a little bit. But that thing is looking good. Here's the reverse light wires running down through factory clips from the Pontiac and running up a factory clip. And then this is the rear O2 sensor wires for when after we run. We are going to run high flow cats, one on each side. And the passenger side rear O2 sensor wires are in the car. They go through the body harness, but the driver side rear O2 sensor is not present because the car never had a driver side rear O2 sensor. So since we added the V8, we had to add the rear O2 sensor wires. So yeah, but we're waiting on a heat shield for that side, or for the driver side header. Once we get that heat shield, Terry's got the entire engine bay detailed. I think we're going to make a couple small minor modifications here and there. There may be a few changes before we get the motor actually in there, but it's looking like as soon as if we can get the heat shield to fit, we'll get the motor in there. All right, so the motor is back in the engine compartment. Now we're gonna do our little bit of hookups that we have to do, get the transmission mount bolted in there. And this time we're actually gonna hook up the power steering and fill it with fluid. We'll hook up the radiator and fill it with fluid. And the only thing that we're not gonna do here is vacuum and charge the air conditioning, because he's got a buddy of ours that works at the dealership, and he's gonna get him to do it at the dealership. So yeah, she's back in there. We'll have her running by the end of the night. All right, everybody, we got the motor in. Got the new intake in here with the different air filter on it. Everything's hooked up. Our wiring harness still did not reach, so we're gonna have to redo how we do the wiring harness over here. We're trying to get it to where it goes down into that groove where the factory location was. It's still not right, so we probably are gonna have to extend those 28 wires that we were hoping we wouldn't have to. But Terry's getting ready to crank it, so yeah, let her rip, dude. All right, guys, we had a vacuum leak and we didn't have a mass airflow hooked up. So let's try that again. Well, that sounds a whole lot better. That's the exhaust cooking.
That sounded more like I remember this.
Yeah. No,
Better though.
that thing sounds like it's supposed to. And the dog, the dog was attacking the freaking.
Does that shit every time.
All right, guys, we just got it back on the ground. Need to move the crane out of the way so I can get some good side shots on this thing, and I'll come back down here during the day tomorrow. But she's looking pretty fucking dope. All right. And he's got different wheels to put on here too. So hopefully we'll be able to get the front end, get the radiator and everything whenever he gets his radiator. And we'll be able to put the front bumper and everything back on here, and the whole front of the car will be back together. All right, guys, so there's the car back on the ground. Obviously the tires are flat. That tire's flat, but we've got different rims to put on it. Thing looks really nice. And then got the engine down in there. And, so yeah, that thing's coming out really nice. We've got a little bit more work to do to, he's got to get a new radiator for it. He's going to get a high flow radiator for it. So that's why we didn't run it with the belt last night. So once we get the high flow radiator, we'll fill up the power steering fluid, put the belt back on there, hook up the coolant system, and then we'll run the car with all the fluids and everything going in it. Now we did realize that the front passenger side injector, so Terry bought 4 or 8 brand new, not brand new, but refurbished injectors. And the front passenger side, when we thought the O-ring was leaking, but it's actually the injector itself is leaking. So we're gonna have to switch it to a different injector. But other than that, we haven't noticed any other issues with the vehicle. So everything's working the way that it's supposed to. We did have to move the power steering line and the fuel line further back on the side of the firewall because it would have hit right on the exhaust. So we did have to scoot that back. So now all we have left to do is, as far as getting the motor completed, is get that fuel injector fixed. And then we're gonna have to cut the wiring harness open, extend those wires to try and get the wiring harness to sit where we want it to sit. We really thought that we had it with the little bit of stretching that we did, but not enough. So we don't have any other choice. We're gonna have to extend those 28 wires and then retape the harness. But we got it to stretch last night so that we could get it to hook up and get it running. So once we make those adjustments, everything on the motor should be done. we should be able to go get the measurements for the drive shaft today. And then Terry's gonna take those measurements and the drive shaft and the end of the old drive shaft off the Pontiac Solstice transmission, take them up to a driveline place and get them to make the drive shaft. Then once the drive shaft's made, all we got left is create the exhaust and then switch out the rear end so that we put the limited slip differential in there. And then it's just doing cosmetic stuff. So if y'all like what you saw in this video, like always, please like, comment, share, subscribe, let your friends see what I'm doing. I know for a fact that I'm gonna start working on the Bel Air, or I mean the Impala. And I am going to work on the Veloster. I'm actually getting a little antsy because I haven't worked on that in 2 weeks, and I don't want to lose where I'm at. So I'll probably be working on that one and the Impala at the same time. The Impala will be pretty easy because I'm just pulling the motor to regasket it and get the transmission with new clutches put in it. But the Veloster, I still got a shit ton of work to do too. So hope y'all enjoyed this, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Have a great one.